No one inside the hallowed, often ruthless paddock of MotoGP truly expected what would unfold in the quiet, closed confines of Misano. It was a sound, a new guttural roar that echoed through the otherwise silent garages, a sound that signaled not just a change but a seismic shift. For decades, the very DNA of Yamaha's racing heart had pulsed with the refined, high-pitched scream of the inline-4 engine. It was their identity, their philosophy, their triumph. But now something radically different was being unleashed. A V4. And astride this experimental beast, a rider many believed was destined for this very stage, yet one who had repeatedly been denied his chance, Toprak Razgatlioglu. This wasn't just a test, it was a desperate gamble, a calculated risk that would either redefine Yamaha's future in the pinnacle of motorcycle racing or confirm their fears of an irreversible decline. The stakes were monumental, not just for the team, but for the entire legacy of a motorsports icon, and for the man with the most aggressive braking style in motorcycle racing. But behind the carefully guarded gates of the Misano circuit, pressure was building fast. The atmosphere was thick with a tension palpable even through the paddock's usual veil of secrecy. This wasn't merely another development session, it was a desperate make-or-break endeavor. For years, the Yamaha YZR M1 with its iconic inline-4 engine had thrilled fans and captured championships. Yet in recent seasons, the smooth, predictable power delivery that once defined its strength had become its greatest weakness. On track, against the thunderous V4s of Ducati, KTM, and Aprilia, the M1 found itself consistently outmatched in the brutal drag races off corners and down straights. The writing was on the wall. Yamaha had to change or risk being left behind in the dust, a relic of a bygone era. The air around the Misano garage buzzed with a nervous energy, for here a completely new machine, a Yamaha V4 prototype, was being pushed to its limits. And the man tasked with tamming it, a rider known for his almost violent aggression, Toprak Razgatlioglu, carried the weight of an entire factory's hopes on his shoulders. What happened next would determine more than just lap times, it would chart the course of a legendary manufacturer's destiny. Inside the corporate offices and racing departments in Iwata, Japan, whispers had begun spreading, growing louder with each passing season. The revered inline-4 engine, a design that had delivered Valentino Rossi and Jorge Lorenzo countless victories, was slowly suffocating Yamaha's MotoGP ambitions. Fabio Quartararo, a rider of immense natural talent, found himself constantly battling not just his rivals, but the fundamental limitations of his own machine. The M1 consistently hit a top-speed wall that no amount of aero trickery or electronic wizardry could overcome. The V4 architecture, inherently more compact and capable of delivering a punchier, more direct power pulse, offered superior acceleration and higher top speeds, critical in the modern era of MotoGP. It wasn't just a technical disadvantage, it was an existential crisis. To abandon the inline-4 was to fundamentally change who Yamaha was as a racing brand, a decision that sparked intense internal debate and, according to insiders, significant resistance within the deeply traditional Japanese corporate structure. This wasn't just an engineering challenge, it was a cultural earthquake, shaking the foundations of Yamaha's identity. Yet the data was undeniable, and the cries from the paddock were too loud to ignore. The inline-4, once a symbol of innovation, was now a specter, haunting Yamaha's hopes for championship glory. And from that moment, nothing would ever be the same for Yamaha's pursuit of MotoGP redemption. They needed a catalyst, a disruptive force, and they found him in Toprak Razgatlioglu. Hailing from Turkey, Toprak was a phenomenon, a rider who had rewritten the rulebook in World Superbikes with his jaw-dropping late braking and seemingly impossible saves. He wasn't just fast, he was a spectacle, an artist of aggression. His signature stoppie maneuvers, where he would lift the rear wheel high into the air under braking, weren't just for show, they were a testament to his unparalleled feel for the front tire. But despite his undeniable talent, his path to MotoGP had been a winding, frustrating one. Earlier tests on a MotoGP spec M1 had been underwhelming, shadowed by contractual complexities and the M1's own limitations. The MotoGP paddock, a notoriously exclusive club, watched with a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. Could a rider whose style was forged in the superbike arena truly adapt to the brutal demands of a prototype machine? Could his raw, aggressive approach be harnessed, or would it simply overwhelm the delicate balance of a MotoGP bike? This new V4 project was his ultimate proving ground, a chance to silence the doubters and fulfill a destiny many believed was long overdue. Toprak carried not only his own ambitions, but the heavy weight of Yamaha's desperate hope for revival. Yet the real turning point happened away from the cameras, behind the high walls of Misano on the first day of testing. The initial adaptation for Toprak was more than just getting acquainted with a new engine, it was a profound physical and mental recalibration. The switch from a production-based superbike, even a highly modified one, to a full-blown MotoGP prototype is immense. Every input is amplified, every mistake unforgiving. The sheer horsepower of the V4 M1 was a shock to the system, demanding a level of precision and control that differed significantly from his World SBK machine. The first sessions were a delicate dance of discovery, Toprak meticulously evaluating the V4 engine's basic characteristics, its power delivery, its engine braking, its chassis response. The engineers watched with bated breath, their screens a flurry of data points, trying to interpret the language of a rider known for his instinctual feel. According to some mechanics present, there were moments of struggle, flashes of frustration as Toprak grappled with the raw, untamed nature of the prototype. The telemetry, however, began to show something fascinating. Even in these early stages, his unique ability to push the front tire to its absolute limit was already providing invaluable feedback, hinting at a connection few riders could establish so quickly. The first day was about laying the groundwork, understanding the beast, but the true test of this radical pairing was yet to come. But what the paddock discovered next shocked everyone. On the second day, a transformation began to unfold. Toprak, now more familiar with the V4's raw power, started to unleash his signature, almost violent late braking. This wasn't just about stopping fast, it was about forcing the bike's front end into extreme dive, testing its structural integrity, its suspension limits, and the absolute grip of the front tire. For Yamaha's engineers, this was an unprecedented opportunity. No other rider could consistently push a bike into such a critical state, providing invaluable data on the chassis' response to extreme loads. The telemetry screens, once showing a rider's adaptation, now painted a picture of a machine being pushed beyond its conventional limits, yet remaining composed. Toprak's aggressive approach, once seen as a potential liability on a MotoGP machine, was proving to be its greatest asset. He wasn't just riding the bike, he was dissecting it, providing feedback on nuances of braking stability and corner entry that would take other riders weeks to articulate. The V4 engine, with its more linear power delivery, began to synergize with his style, allowing him to control the prodigious power with a finesse that belied his aggression. The combination was electric, suggesting that perhaps the key to unlocking the V4's full potential lay not in traditional MotoGP refinement, but in Toprak's sheer, unadulterated force. Yet this was only the beginning of a far bigger storm, brewing silently within the Misano paddock. As Toprak continued to push the prototype, the air inside the Yamaha garage grew thick with intense, hushed discussions. Yamaha management, present at the circuit, reportedly held active, lengthy meetings with their technical teams, poring over every data point. The internal pressure to succeed with this V4 project was immense, and Toprak's early results were both exhilarating and terrifying. The reports filtering out, vague yet intriguing, suggested that the V4 was showing significant improvements, particularly in its linear power delivery and stability at high lean angles, areas where the inline-4 had consistently struggled. This quiet progress was not going unnoticed. Though a closed test, the MotoGP paddock is a notoriously porous environment, and whispers began to escape. Rival teams, particularly those from the dominant European V4 stables, were reportedly keeping a close eye on Misano, perhaps even sending scouts. The prospect of Toprak, a proven champion, combined with a newly competitive Yamaha V4 was a threat they hadn't anticipated, a potential disruption to their hard-won dominance. The politics of the paddock were already at play, even before the bike had officially turned a wheel in anger against its rivals. The V4 project was no longer a secret, it was a warning shot. However, the twist that followed would change the championship narrative entirely. With the initial speed and stability established, Yamaha moved to the ultimate crucible of MotoGP testing, the race pace simulation. This is where champions are forged, where raw speed must transform into unwavering consistency over punishing long runs. It's one thing to throw down a single scorching lap, it's another to maintain that pace when tires are degrading, fuel loads are dropping, and physical fatigue sets in. Toprak's aggressive, late-braking style, while spectacular, carried a high risk of shredding front tires. The V4's immense torque could also easily overwhelm the rear tire on corner exit if not managed perfectly. The engineers watched their monitors with bated breath, looking for the telltale spikes in tire temperature and wear rates. Every lap was a tension-filled gamble. Would the delicate balance hold? Would the new chassis flex under the sustained violence of Toprak's braking? The garage was a tableau of intense concentration, the only sounds the distant roar of the V4 and the rapid-fire commands between engineers. This wasn't just about speed anymore. It was about survival, about building a machine that could not only challenge at the front, but sustain that challenge for an entire race distance. What happened after that left even his closest team members stunned. As Toprak peeled into the garage after the extended race simulation, the initial fear gave way to disbelief, then quiet elation. The data, the cold, unfeeling arbiter of performance, told an astonishing story. Despite his extreme late braking and brutal aggression, Toprak had managed to record consistent lap times for several consecutive laps with controlled front tire degradation. This was the ultimate twist. His style, far from being a liability for tire wear, was proving to be remarkably efficient. His acute feel for the front end allowed him to manage grip precisely, rather than overloading it. The V4 engine's more linear power delivery, combined with meticulous electronic adjustments, meant the rear tire was also being spared unnecessary punishment. Yamaha hadn't just found a fast rider or a potent engine, they had stumbled upon a synergy, a rare connection between man and machine that defied conventional wisdom. The implications were profound. This wasn't just a step forward, it was a leap. Yamaha management, typically reserved, were reportedly seen in animated discussions, their faces betraying a mix of relief and growing excitement. They hadn't just built a V4. They had found the rider who could truly unlock its hidden potential, potentially forging the missing link needed to challenge the established order of the V4-dominated grid. The private Misano test concluded, but its reverberations were only just beginning. The question now hung heavy in the air. Was this a genuine turning point, signaling a new era for Yamaha, or merely a false dawn, an isolated moment of brilliance that couldn't be sustained? For Toprak, his role as a central figure in Yamaha's ambitious project was now undeniable. He wasn't just a test rider, he was the architect of their future, his detailed input on engine braking, weight distribution, and front-end response proving invaluable. The emotional weight on his shoulders was immense, the hopes of an entire factory, the dreams of a nation riding on his ability to tame this revolutionary machine. The social media world, starved of official news, buzzed with speculative narratives. Fan communities debated fiercely, could Toprak truly adapt to MotoGP? Would Yamaha's V4 be a game-changer? The pressure was immense, a silent expectation building for the first official 2026 preseason tests when the V4 M1 would finally be seen alongside its rivals. The journey ahead was fraught with challenges, technical hurdles, and the intense psychological pressure of competing at the highest level. But for now, a fragile hope had ignited, a belief that Yamaha, long a sleeping giant, might finally be ready to roar back into contention. The silence that fell over Misano after the test was deceiving. It was the calm before a storm, a quiet that merely masked the profound implications of what had just transpired. The progress shown by the Yamaha V4 prototype, combined with Toprak Razgatlioglu's undeniable chemistry with the machine, was more than just a promising development. It was a warning shot. For years, the European manufacturers had dominated, pushing the boundaries of V4 performance, while Yamaha seemed to drift further into the shadows. Now, with a radical new engine concept and a rider whose aggressive style perfectly exploited its strengths, the dynamic was poised to shift. The next time the world sees this pairing, it will be under the glare of official testing, where every lap, every sector will be scrutinized by rivals hungry for any sign of weakness. But if the Misano test proved anything, it's that Yamaha is no longer content to merely participate. They are coming to fight. The Blue Revolution has begun, and its roar, once confined to a private test, is about to shake the foundations of the entire MotoGP paddock.